Well, our big story, or the top story then tonight, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram and Messenger applications have crashed globally. It's left billions of people unable to communicate. Social media giant Facebook owns all of these platforms. We're joined now by Stuff Magazine publisher and editor-in-chief, Toby Shapshak. Toby, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. So, ironically, people are having multiple meltdowns, anxiety attacks on Twitter, talking about this blackout from these Facebook apps, effectively. What do we know about what's going on?
Well, what we know is that Facebook's DNS servers, so these are the domain name servers. Remember that the internet uses numbers. It talks in math. Us humans talk in English, and what a domain name server, a DNS, does is convert facebook.com into 19 blah 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 201 ... whatever, and those have fallen over. But the bigger problem is that this is a single company, Kathy, that is responsible for half the world's communication. Remember that Facebook itself has about 2.85 billion users. WhatsApp has over 1.5 billion users. Facebook Messenger has over 1 billion users. Instagram has over 1 billion users. And all of these people rely on Facebook, not just for sharing, cat videos. And I hear the latest craze on TikTok is pool cleaning videos. Would you believe it? Not just those things, but people run their businesses on WhatsApp. They run them on Facebook. There are a whole bunch of people who rely on this company to enable them to operate in the world. There are many people who communicate only via WhatsApp or send voice notes or messages or make calls. All of that is completely down, and there is no accountability for Facebook because Mark Zuckerberg has 60% of the voting stock of Facebook. So even though this is the man who has presided over arguably the greatest breaches of human privacy, of personal data, not least the Cambridge Analytica saga, but earlier this year, something like 530 million people's information was scraped off Facebook. And basically, Facebook said it's people's fault because it's publicly available information. And in fact, that's the tone that Facebook is starting to take with its critics and with all of these never-ending breaches of our data, our personal information. It keeps telling people that they have to just harden up because the analogy Facebook used is that you don't expect the police department to clean all the crime out of a city, do you? And that's what Facebook's doing. They no longer think they can do it. And this, of course, this outage today, Kathy, is on the back of the most damaging revelations. Last night, America has a show called 60 Minutes. It's their carte blanche, or our carte blanche is their 60 Minutes. And it revealed there's a massive whistleblower. This woman's name, Frances Haugen. She was a 37-year-old. She was the head of the civic misinformation team. She has an MBA of Harvard. She's worked at social networks all over America. And she just got really worried about what she saw. And she gave all of these internal documents to the Wall Street Journal and to American lawmakers and to the SEC, the Securities Exchange. So she's probably the most damaging person, if you want. She's the Edward Snowden of Facebook. Edward Snowden released all of this information about America's NSA and what data they were collecting about people. And Frances Haugen is arguably one of the great whistleblowers of the world. She will be remembered for revealing all of this information. I mean, some of the things are just astounding. I need to read this to you because it's just mind-blowing how bad Facebook is, and yet we all rely on them. And they are unaccountable, and they truly don't care about us users because we're not the real users. The advertisers are the people they're ultimately responsible to. And as Frances Haugen has revealed, they've always prioritized profit over safety, especially the mental health of young girls using Instagram. They knew about it, and then they continued to act badly. So this outage perhaps is probably the mental health break that the world needed, Kathy. That's one way to look at it.
Well, the one thing it certainly will do is that it will help people identify whether or not they actually may have a deeper problem where the use of the social media apps is concerned. But Toby, you touch on a very important issue, and that's really the monopoly, right, over these apps that Facebook has and the lack of accountability. So by and large, this problem that is being faced has also been somewhat self-created, in that in certain instances, Facebook has been allowed to effectively get away with murder. And as they made all of these acquisitions, whether it was Instagram or WhatsApp, it really wasn't interrogated to the extent that it needed to be. And today we sit in this situation where their apps are down and billions of people across the world are affected. And like you're saying, billions of businesses, or maybe not billions, but certainly many businesses affected.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, you can see from the flicker of white light as the Bing screen comes up on my laptop that I was just double checking, because murder is in fact the word, Kathy. And there have been some very serious accusations from the UN, no less, that Facebook is responsible for genocide in Myanmar, for the way they allowed hate speech to spread. Of course, in last week alone, the New York Times unveiled a bunch of information, including a very hard-hitting editorial about the fact that Facebook was used by Donald Trump's supporters on this fateful January 6th day, where these right-wing nut jobs, I don't know how else we describe them. I'm allowed to say that on television. These crazy people stormed the Capitol, demanding hang Mike Pence and don't steal the vote. All of this was through Facebook. Facebook was aware of the misinformation, for instance, about COVID vaccines and all these other vaccines, and they never stop it. They've been saying for years and years it's impossible to do it, and then along comes COVID. And in no time at all, what happens is Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, all of these social networks that have said they're unable to stop the spread of misinformation suddenly were able, because COVID kills you, you know.
Toby, unfortunately, we are going to have to leave it there for tonight. That's all we have time for on News at Prime. He's the editor-in-chief and publisher of Stuff magazine. Plenty more to still come out of this story, especially if people wake up tomorrow or go to bed tonight without their WhatsApp and their Instagram.